This podcast is not sponsored or supported by any business or organization. The views reflected on these podcast episodes are my own. Be aware I am not a medical doctor, travel agent, or any other kind of expert. But I hope you still enjoy. Hey friends, welcome to the Gluten-Free Advocate, a Substack and podcast that helps me process my health journey and my determination to pretend that those health conditions don't exist at all. If you're looking for tips, tricks, and learnings for traveling the world with celiac disease and type 1.5 diabetes, you have come to the right place. Now, let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome to the Gluten-Free Advocate. I'm so excited to be back again for another Wednesday. I don't know how much longer these video podcasts are going to go because they're a lot of work, not just in the editing, but in having to wear pants is tough. And also putting on the, makeup poorly is not fun either. So here, we're just going to take it one episode at a time, but here we go, folks. So I have already been, I know 2 weeks ago, I talked about all the trips I was going to go on this year that I had planned already. And guess what? Already things did not go according to plan. And that happens when you travel a lot. Things are not supposed to go according to plan. That's what makes traveling so much fun. And I know in the past, if you go back to the first season, my episode on Amsterdam in particular, I've had to, my family and I have a hard time traveling all together. And the more I travel solo, the harder time I have traveling with other people because I plan things out to the second. And it's not because I, am a control freak. So that's the reason why a lot of people think that I do it that way. I do it that way because I want to make sure I can eat. So I always figure out where I'm eating first. So that way, those are my goalposts throughout the day. And then I plan my day of the vacations around that. And I have a plan A and a plan B of where I'm going to be eating, or I try to do that as much as possible. Sometimes that's just not an option. And if I don't think I'm going to have enough options in the areas where I want to travel, then I have to plan out, okay, well, when are the goalposts of when I do my shopping and when I don't go out to eat and when I have to, either make food or stock up on things. So I'm just eating on the go. So that is incredibly difficult for me. And that otherwise in the past, when I have not done that, then I don't eat for days and that's not good. And that has only gotten worse since the type 1 diagnosis. This is my first time traveling in true since this type 1 diagnosis, and I am petrified of any little thing going wrong because I am petrified of going into a coma because my numbers go low. Though that's not my issue. My issue is when I'm not on insulin, my numbers skyrocket. So either way, petrified of it all. Do not feel confident in it at all. So now, and before the type 1 diagnosis, I always, I talk about in that Amsterdam episode I spoke of earlier, I try to leave a little room for magic where I plan one thing a day and then I leave room for whatever is going to happen. So that's fun. That's not stressful at all. And that makes it nice and relaxing where I can make sure I do all the things that I want to do, but also that I get to actually wind down and relax. Part of why I like going on a celiac cruise so much is it leaves more room for relaxation. It's the one vacation where I don't have to think about what I eat. There is no need for goalposts because those goalposts are all on the ship. And then there's excursions that I can pay to do and go out and see the things I want to see. And that's all handled. The transportation to and from is all taken care of. I don't have to, and I am way more creative and relaxed coming off of a celiac cruise because there's so much I don't have to worry about or think about. Which brings me into another thing of what this episode is going to end up becoming about is why celiac cruise is so important and why, the number one question I am asked is, why I don't need to go on a celiac cruise, especially Royal Caribbean is so great. I get to pick out my meal the day before and they've been really great about it and there's options, yada, yada. So we're going to get into that. But to take a couple of steps back, let's talk about when trips have gone wrong. So I can't even bring up other examples of when trips have gone wrong. I think one was when I went to Nashville. I forgot, or I accidentally, because at the time I did not have TSA pre-check. And so I had to take out my license to show it. And I felt really rushed. I wasn't a practiced traveler yet. And I left my license in the bin on the security line going through TSA. And I didn't know until I was in Nashville. And I tried to get the rental car that I had paid for, and I couldn't find my license. And then I encountered another issue when I tried to check into the hotel, and they didn't want to check me into the hotel because I didn't have my license. And I didn't bring my passport with me, and I was a sobbing mess. It was horrible. Luckily, it all got worked out. My father drove into the airport. They had seen my license at LaGuardia. They had put it in, I guess Lost and Found. And then he shipped it overnight to my hotel. And I was able to cry enough tears and show enough proof that I was who I said I was at the hotel that they did let me take my room for the night. Otherwise, I would have been in trouble because there was no car for me to go drive around, and I would not have had a place to sleep. So that was a really tough lesson of like learning how to deal with that stuff. And that was really difficult. And that was when I was like, forget it, never again. It was my first time ever traveling by myself on a full vacation. So I was like, this is why I can't do this on my own. But then I figured it out with some help, and I persevered, and I came through the other side, and that was incredible. I did travel through London on my own, through the UK, and took like a little quick trip to Amsterdam, but I was in a study abroad program, so there was like a cushion of, I had classmates there with me, so there was no I didn't feel truly on my own. That was the first trip. And I always say to folks, if you can, and if you have the means, do what you can to do one trip that's like an actual trip by yourself. It's the most magical, empowering thing that you could do for yourself. And if it's only a one-time thing, that's fine. But now I pretty much almost exclusively travel by myself, and it's now a really hard adjustment to have to travel with other people. I have a really hard time with that. But, that will come back to me over time, I'm sure, as people maybe or maybe not want to travel. This summer I'm going on a trip with my sister, so it should be pretty interesting how I accommodate that. But anyway, so for the Celiac cruises, I was supposed to go on 6 this year. And I was so excited. My big one that I was really excited about was Australia and New Zealand. So that happened at the end of January and was supposed to come back beginning of February. And I had last episode, we talked about the flight and all that it took to get the type 1 stuff and the food, everything amazing and wonderful that took in that process. I got to, Sydney, had a really great time in Sydney. Please check out my Instagram if you want to see, and TikTok, The Gluten-Free Advocate, if you want to check out places that I went to go eat. That was amazing. I did one Get Your Guide tour, which was okay. Not the best tour I've ever been on, but also I've been on worse, but I don't feel the need to recommend it. But it did give me an interesting history lesson on Sydney and Australia. I get on the ship. That's wonderful. I do develop a little bit of, I feel a little nauseous, but I'm prone to feeling nauseous anyway. But I was still functional and having a good time the first night, not so much. But the rest of the time, as long as I kept moving, that seems to be the trick. I had an ear patch and I kept moving. And I had a great time. I met amazing, wonderful people. Ben from a gluten-free family, him and his wife and the girls, they are now family friends that they will stay in my life forever. I'm already trying to figure out when I can go back to Australia and visit them next. Same with Mel from The Very Hungry Celiac, Sarah from Celiac, Sarah Explores, and her husband KJ. Love them. Emma from the Celiac Disease Foundation, Audrey from the Gluten-Free Chef. Family. now. And I can't, and I thought Australia was going to be, this was the one time I was ever going to go. So this was a super special trip. And, I'm probably never going to be able to do that flight again. And because of these people, I am already figuring out, okay, when can I go back and visit them as soon as possible? And how quickly can I pay off my credit card bills and my medical debts so I can get back there and visit with them? And they truly have changed my life in a way that, it's kind of confirmed everything I felt with my life. And we can go into that a little bit more later. But Ben, Beck, and their girls in particular, where I kept thinking while I was spending time with them, the number one thing I get judged about in this life is the fact that I have chosen not to have children. It's just not my cup of tea, not my bowl of wax. And speaking to my doctors, just didn't feel like the best choice. Also something I never really wanted. And my life is still very full and fulfilled. And I always think, I've had relatives say very bizarre things to me in that regard. And it's a little upsetting when they do. But that's more a reflection of them than it is on me. But I always think of the Chelsea Handler quote of her choice to not have children, where she says, I am able to give so much more love and make such a better impact to so many more kids not being a mom than I ever could being a mom. And I felt that with the kids on this Celiac cruise. And there were a couple of kids there, and I felt like, and we ask all the kids if they're under 18 to fill out a questionnaire of what their experience was on the Celiac cruise. And the fact that the majority of those kids wrote my name down as being a positive impact and a positive part of their experience was really moving to me, because it's not really easy for me to engage with kids. It's something that I have to work really hard at to be comfortable and know what to say and know how to interact. And usually they always, kids love pretty shiny things. So if they see someone that's, I guess, quote unquote, the prettier person, they usually gravitate towards them. And that is okay. I'm never upset about that. But on this cruise, I felt like my presence mattered. And I've never felt that before. And it was incredibly moving and meaningful for me. And I think that plays into me wanting to go back there, because I feel like, my life is richer for having them in it. And maybe I'm also making their life a little bit richer too. So that was, having a great time with the Celiac Cruise community in Australia. A couple of the excursions and days at ports got canceled because of the weather. Nothing anybody can do about that. That's fine. As we were coming back to Sydney and ending this first cruise, something happened, a technical issue with the engine, I suppose, and we get an email, the New Zealand cruise is canceled. And I went off on my emotional tangent just now, because I think everybody that had a moment of panic, of okay, for the Americans in particular, that we were like, okay, well, I was supposed to be here for 10 days. What do I do? How do I move things up? Can I afford to move things up? Can I afford to stay and figure everything out on my own? I made right away, the family members that I mentioned that are now my family, everybody was like, okay, these are all the places that we have that you could stay. These are the things that we can recommend that you could do that's affordable. Here's the family members that would be willing to house you for free. Here's us that can house you for free. Let us know. And that is something that I don't think I've ever experienced, where everybody as a collective, we all kept our heads, cooler heads prevailed. Even if I had a moment where I needed to let out the panic of the amount of money I spent on medical equipment for that to all just go away. And a couple of other people needed to have their moment of oh my gosh, why is this happening? But it never escalated. And we were able to the folks, the Australian family members now, and I will always call them family members, my Aussie family, everybody kept everybody else calm, and they were able to ground me, I should say, in a way where I could be more solutions focused. And it also just shows you how many different styles. Like, I needed to figure it out. I couldn't wait till tomorrow, because a lot of folks were like, this is a tomorrow issue. Let's just go get some drinks and have some fun together. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't be present. I couldn't enjoy it. I needed to change my flight and figure out where I was going and what I needed to make some decisions. And then I could just relax. And so I decided, I needed to go back to work. I freelance, so it was more helpful and beneficial for me to make more money, and that way I could come back faster. I wasn't able to create a schedule or a trip where I felt good, where I could create those goalposts for myself, and I felt like I couldn't take the time that I would like to have to create a full schedule. So I decided to just come home early, and that was the best decision. Now that it's been, a couple of weeks, that was the best decision I could have made for myself. And but I had offers of staying at people's homes for free, and thank you to those folks that did. I mentioned you all already, so I don't want to call you out so people can take advantage of you in a different way. It'd be like, hey, I heard you're giving out a free place to stay, free bedrooms. So I appreciate everything that those folks did for me, and I just kept barreling through. And then I was able to enjoy the rest of the time that we had, and I was able to really spend time with the folks that meant the world to me, that I was losing 10 days with. I got to spend time with folks that were going to be going off the ship anyway in a couple of days, and now I felt like less of a hole was going to be there, because you know what, none of us are going to be there now. Connie from Celiac Cruise really came in clutch for the whole group, which was incredible. And that brings me to why a celiac cruise is so important. So if I had been on Royal Caribbean and all the ports got canceled and my next cruise was just gone, if I didn't have celiac cruise, where at least my meals, if I had to worry about eating on top of all the other stressors, I think that would have caused an escalation and freak out. But because celiac cruise, Connie, Maureen, Emma had all of that taken care of on our behalf, the pressure that took off of my shoulders was perfection. And it just goes to show that when people say, well, they accommodate allergies on cruises, I don't understand why you need to go on a celiac cruise. This was a perfect example of why celiac cruise is so important. Because yes, cruise lines accommodate, but there's always risk of cross-contamination. There's always a risk of someone making a mistake. It's not a dedicated kitchen situation. Celiac Cruise does it right, where at least the one thing, which is a big thing, you never have to worry about, is the food. And you can truly, it leaves your brain. I never realized how much brain space eating takes up in my brain until I go on a celiac cruise. And now that I've been on a couple, I know I'm going on a celiac cruise specifically to be creative and to allow myself all the things I just don't have the energy to do on a day-to-day. And it's incredible. And the community that gets to be built as a result of that is irreplaceable. And to have you get really intimate with folks on a celiac cruise really quickly. And I think that's why I think only on a celiac cruise could I meet people for the first time, and within a week, we're calling each other family friends. And within a week after that cruise, we're all still talking. It's been a few weeks, and we all are checking in on each other, making sure we're okay. I've already FaceTimed with Ben at a gluten-free family and the kids and Beck, and made sure that I connected with them, and we were figuring out, when am I seeing them next? So that happens on every cruise. I met Gabby from No Gluten Gabby within a week. she's one of my really good friends now, and we're celebrating Valentine's Day together. She's my Valentine this year, and I'm so excited about it. That keeps happening. Jim and Karen from the very first cruise I went on in 2021, they're still, my sister and I called them ship mom and ship dad. They're still acting like our ship parents, and they're incredible. So that was back in 2021. It is now 2026. Still talking to all these folks and checking in with folks as if they're family. And I think that there's nothing that beats that experience. Nothing. There will never be anything as good as the feelings that you walk away from with the Celiac cruise. So on a trip that went wrong, I'm so glad, and I think that, if I could go on more cruises this year, I would go on more. And I know that they've got a lifelong customer in me, because they have my full trust. If I were to have a child and they wanted my firstborn, they could have it. And I'm forever grateful to Maureen and Connie for creating this community and this environment where things could go so horribly wrong that's out of our control, but they made sure that we still had a great experience and a good time and felt safe. Never ever did that ever go away. So yeah, that's the pitch for Celiac Cruise, my more like impassioned, emotional plea to folks of come join us on a Celiac Cruise. So although I already went on Australia and unfortunately didn't get to do New Zealand, I am about to go head out on another one for the Eastern Caribbean, so make sure to follow the Gluten-Free Advocate on all social media platforms. And with all that, I'm going to the Eastern Caribbean, like I said, and then in May I'm going to Bermuda. That is sold out, but you can join the wait list. And then I'm also going on Croatia and Greece. That's also sold out, but feel free to do the wait list. And there's also, I'm doing Spain and Italy. That will be my last one of the year. And that is still available for folks to sign up for. So it's not too late. If this has inspired you, please go for it. If anybody has any questions about Celiac cruises, please send them through. You can go to hieatexplorelove@gmail.com or you can go to my social media platforms at the Gluten-Free Advocate, and I can answer some of your Celiac cruise questions. So, the MVPs are Mel, Audrey, Sarah, KJ, Ben, Beck, my gills, Brett, Connie, and Maureen. Thank you so much for everything that you guys do. You're the best. Till next time. Thank you for joining me this week for an episode of The Gluten-Free Advocate. For more information on what's discussed on the podcast, check out the episode description and/or my Substack, The Gluten-Free Advocate. If you have any questions or fun stories to share, feel free to reach out at hieatexplorelove@gmail.com. Till next time. This episode is produced by Leigh Francis Productions.